Advaita Saptami Mahamahotsaha ki Jai. Om Vishwapad Paramahamsa Parivraja Acharya Stotra Shri Srimad Abhaya Charanaravindra Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Vishwapad Paramahamsa Parivraja Acharya Stotra Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Shri Prabhupada ki Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki Shri Vrindavan Dham ki Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki Jagannath Puri ki Ganga Mai ki Yamuna Mai ki Bhakti Devi ki Tulasi Devi ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki taking over the world with Srila Prabhupada's national book distribution ki Jai. All graciously assembled devotees, all graciously assembled devotees, all graciously assembled devotees, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari, all gracious Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, all gracious Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutare उससे पहले भी हो सकता है 9 बजे can I take over the screen sharing or whatever. Wow, it's working so nicely now. Okay, reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we usually chant Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Shri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jai Shri Chandra, Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Shri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda, Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Panchama Varshera Balaka Kahe Siddhantera Sara Shuniya Paila Acharya Santosha Apara Panchama Varshera Balaka Kahe Siddhantera Sar Panchama Varshera Balaka Kahe Siddhantera Sar Shuniya Paila Acharya Santosha Apar Shuniya Paila Acharya Santosha Apar Panchama Varshera Balaka Kahe Siddhantera Sar Panchama Varshera Balaka Kahe Siddhantera Sar Shuniya Paila Acharya Santosha Apar Shuniya Paila Acharya Santosha Apar Panchama Varshera Balaka Kahe Siddhantera Sar Panchama Varshera Balaka Kahe Siddhantera Sar Shuniya Paila Acharya Santosha Apar Shuniya Paila Acharya Santosha Apar Panchama Varshera Balaka Kahe Siddhantera Sar Panchama Varshera Balaka Kahe Siddhantera Sar Shuniya Paila Acharya Santosha Apar Shuniya Paila Acharya Santosha Apar. Please. Panchama Varshera Balaka Kahe Siddhantera Sar Panchama Varshera Balaka Kahe Siddhantera Sar Shuniya Paila Acharya Santosha Apar Shuniya Paila Acharya Santosha Apar Panchama Varshera Balaka Kahe Siddhantera Sar Panchama Varshera Balaka Kahe Siddhantera Sar Shuniya Paila Acharya Santosha Apar Panchama Varshera Balaka Kahe Siddhantera Sar Panchama Varshera Balaka Kahe Siddhantera Sar Shuniya Paila Acharya Santosha Apar Shuniya Paila Acharya Santosha Apar Panchama Varshera Balaka Kahe Siddhantera Sar Panchama Varshera Balaka Kahe Siddhantera Sar Shuniya Paila Acharya Santosha Apar Shuniya Paila Acharya Santosha Apar Panchama 5 Varshera years Balaka small boy Kahe says Siddhantera Sar essence Shuniya hearing Paila God Acharya, Advaita Acharya, Santosha, satisfaction, Apara, very much. So before I read the translation to this verse, I'd like to read the translation to the past few verses in order to understand the context of this verse better. So, okay. So this is speaking about the name of this chapter. I think it's the tree of Lord Chaitanya. It's chapter 12. The different branches of the trees of Lord Chaitanya. So anyway, I could tell the exact name. The expansion of Advaita Acharya. Okay, sorry. So this one is speaking about Advaita Acharya's branch of the Chaitanya tree. A big branch of Advaita Acharya was his son Achyutananda, from the beginning of his life he engaged in the service of the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. When Achyutananda heard from his father that Keshava Bharati was the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya, he was very unhappy. He told his father that instruction that Keshava Bharati is the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya will spoil the entire country. And he says, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the spiritual master of the 14 worlds. But you say that someone else is a spiritual master. This is not supported by any revealed scripture. This boy is 5 years old. Then now today's verse. When Advaita Acharya heard this statement from his 5-year-old son Achyutananda, he felt great satisfaction because of his conclusive judgment, Siddhante Rasar. Commenting on verse 13 through 17, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives an extensive description of the descendants of Advaita Acharya. The Chaitanya Bhagavad Antyakhanda chapter 1 states that Achyutananda was the eldest son of Advaita Acharya. The Sanskrit book Advaita Charita states that Advaita Acharya Prabhu had 3 sons who were the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Their names were Achyuta, Krishna Mishra, and Gopaladas. They were all born of the womb of his wife Sita Devi. Advaita Acharya also had 3 more sons whose names were Balaram, Swarup, and Jagadish. Thus they were 6 sons of Advaita Acharya. Among the 6 sons, 3 were strict followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and of these 3, Achyutananda was the eldest. Advaita Prabhu married in the beginning of the 15th century Shakabda, the late 15th century AD. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to visit the village of Ramakeli while going from Jagannath Puri to Vrindavan during the Shakabda years 1433 and 1434, AD 1511 and 1512, Achyutananda was only 5 years old. The Chaitanya Bhagavad Antyakhanda, 4th chapter, describes Achyutananda. Antyakhanda, 4th chapter, describes Achyutananda at the time as Panchavarsha Vasaya Madhura Digambar, only 5 years old and standing naked. Therefore, it is to be concluded that Achyutananda was born in the year 1428 AD. 1506. Before the birth of Achyutananda, Advaita Prabhu's wife Sita Devi came to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at his birth. Thus, it is not impossible that she had the other 3 sons of Advaita within the 21 years between 1407 and 1428 Shakabda, AD 1486 and 1507. So this is really amazing point Prabhupada makes now. In an unauthorized book of the name Sita Advaita Charita, published in Bengali, in the unauthorized newspaper Nityananda Dayini in 1872. Look at it. Unauthorized book in the name, and then an unauthorized newspaper, Nityananda Dayini in 1782, Shakabda 1870. It is mentioned that Achyutananda was a class friend of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. According to Chaitanya Bhagavad, this statement is not at all valid. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the renounced order of life in the year 1431 Shakabda, 1509, he came to the house of Advaita Prabhu at Shantipur. At that time, as stated in the Chaitanya Bhagavad Antyakhanda, chapter 1, Achyutananda was only 3 years old. Chaitanya Bhagavad further states that the naked child, the son of Advaita Prabhu, immediately came and fell down at the lotus feet of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord immediately took him on his lap, although he was not very clean, having dust all over his body. Lord Chaitanya said, "My dear Achyuta, Advaita Acharya is my father. and thus we are brothers. Before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited his spiritual forms during his residence at Navadvip, he asked Sri Ram Pandit, Srivas Thakur's brother, to go to Shantipur and bring back Advaita Acharya. Achyutananda joined his father at that time. It is said, Advaitera Tanaya Achyutananda Nam, Parama Balaka Seho Kande Aviram. Achyutananda also joined in crying in transcendental bliss. Again, when Lord Chaitanya beat Advaita Acharya for explaining Srimad Bhagavatam from the impersonalist viewpoint opposed to the principles of Bhakti Yoga, Achyutananda was also present. Therefore, all these incidents must have occurred only 2 or 3 years before Lord Chaitanya accepted the sannyas order. As mentioned above in the Chaitanya Bhagavat Antya Khanda, chapter 1, it is said that Achyutananda, the son of Advaita Acharya, offered his obeisances to the Lord. Therefore, it should be concluded that from the very beginning of his life, Achyutananda was a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There is no information that Achyutananda ever married, but he is described as the biggest branch of the Advaita family. From a book named Shaka Niryamrita, it is understood that Achyutananda was a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit and that he took shelter of Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri and engaged in devotional service. The Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi-Lila chapter 10 states that Achyutananda, the son of Advaita Acharya, lived in Jagannath Puri taking shelter of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gadadhar Pandit, in the last years of his life, also lived with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri. There is no doubt that Achyutananda was a disciple of Pandit Gadadhara. In the accounts of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dancing in front of the car during the Ratha Yatra festival, Achyutananda name is found many times. It is stated that in the party of Advaita Acharya from Shantipur, Achyutananda was dancing and others were singing. At that time, the boy was only 6 years old. 87 of the Gaura Ganadesh Deepika, compiled by Kavi Karnapur, describes Achyutananda as a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit and a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. According to the opinion of some, he was an incarnation of Kartikeya, Skanda, the son of Lord Shiva. And to others, he was formerly the gopi named Achyuta. The Gaura Ganadesh Deepika supports both these opinions. Another book, Narottama Vilas, compiled by Sri Narahari Das, mentions Achyutananda's presence during the festival at Ketari. According to Sri Narahari Das, during the last days of his life, Achyutananda stayed in his house at Shantipur. But during the presence of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he lived at Jagannath Puri with Gadadhar Pandit. Of the 6 sons of Advaita Acharya, 3, Achyutananda, Krishna Mishra and Gopal Das, lived faithfully in the service of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Since Achyutananda did not accept a wife, he had no issue. He had no issue at all. The second son of Advaita Acharya, Krishna Mishra, had 2 sons, Raghunath Chakravarti and Dola Govinda. The descendants of Raghunath still live in Shantipur, the neighborhoods of Madan Gopal Pad and Ganakera Mirjapur and Kumara Kali. Dola Govinda had 3 sons named Chanda, Kandarpa and Gopinath. The descendants of Kandarpa lived in Malda in the village Jikabadi. Gopinath has 3 sons, Sri Vallabha, Pranava Vallabha and Keshava. The descendants of Sri Vallabha live in the villages known as Mahishadara, Damukadiya and Chandipur. There is a genealogical table for the family of Sri Vallabha beginning from his eldest son Ganga Narayan. Descendants of Sri Vallabha's youngest son Rama Gopal still live in Damukadiya, Chandipur, Shol, Mari and so on. The descendants of Pranava Vallabha and Keshava lived in Uttali. The son of Pranava Vallabha was Ratneshwar and his son was Krishna Rama, whose youngest son was Lakshmi Narayan. His son Navakishore and Navakishore's second son Rama Mohana, whose eldest son was Jagabandhu, and whose third son Veerachandra accepted the sannyas order and established the deity of Lord Chaitanya in Katwa. The 2 sons of Ram Mohan were known as Bada Prabhu and Chota Prabhu. And they inaugurated this. Pedda Prabhu, that's right. And they inaugurated the circumambulation of Navadvip Dham. One may refer to the Vaishnava Manjusha for the complete genealogical table of Advaita Prabhu in the line of Krishna Mishra. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhisham Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shrita Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shat Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Shat He Krishna Karuna Sandhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Ramosate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripasindubhyeva Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminati Namane Nija Guru Hari Vanya Krishna Chitto Vichinto Parihita Pitri Geha Yanda Sangsara Kupaha Prabhu Bhajana Sukabdo Madjayan Swam Savishwa Bhuvijayati Vikaso Bhakti Purvo Yatingraha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminati Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashati Deshatarine Vagisha Yasya Vadane Lakshmi Yasya Chivachasi Yasyaste Hridaye Samvit Tamrisimha Maham Bhaje Mukham Karti Vachalam Pangam Langaite Girim Yat Kripat Maham Bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay. So today we're celebrating Advaita Saptami, and there's a reason why this verse it goes into the purport. Prabhupada is quoting mainly from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, giving us a full detailed description of Advaita Acharya's line, because it's very important to understand Parampara Jano Bhalo Mate. It's a very important principle of the Gaudiya of any sampradaya, especially ours, because it was emphasized very much by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Parampara Jano Bhalo Mate, which means know very well what is a parampara, know very well what is a proper bona fide sampradaya. If you don't understand this, then we'll actually be destroyed. And in order for us to understand parampara, what is needed? What is needed? It's right here in the Bengali of this verse.
What is needed?
Yeah, proper conclusion. Siddhanti Rasar. So we need to understand the conclusions of revealed scriptures. We need to understand the conclusions of the bona fide revealed scriptures by the bona fide followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by the bona fide spiritual masters in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, in order for us to understand this, all these details are given, all these things are given. Advaita Acharya, he is Mahavishnu himself. Mahavishnu is a combination of Mahavishnu, who is sitting on the Karana ocean, on the causal ocean. And from him, all the universes are emanating. What's the Brahma Samhita verse for this? From him, his pores all are emanating. Yakka nanarva jale bhajatisma yoga nidram ananta jagadanda saroma kupa Adhara Shakti Pratita
Adhara Shaktima Valamya Param Samurti
Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That Mahavishnu is sitting, he's lying down on this causal ocean. From his pores, all these universes are coming. And then Advaita Acharya is said to be, by the bona fide teachers of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, an incarnation of, a combination of Mahavishnu and Sadashiva. So, it's a very exalted personality, and to say the least, a very exalted personality. Anyway, he's the supreme personality of Godhead. Anyway, he's the supreme personality of Godhead, Advaita Acharya, and his role is very important for us to understand who we are, where we are in our spiritual life, and without his mercy, we will not be able to actually get what we get. In order for all of us to be here, sitting in this room and chanting Hare Krishna and worshipping Lord Chaitanya, who are we the most indebted to? Many answers. Srila Prabhupada, right? Srila Prabhupada. We're all indebted to Srila Prabhupada. That's why we're all sitting here. And Advaita Acharya, has a very important role to play, even in our current life, right here, right now, and at every stage of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara. The Bhakti Siddhanta, the Saraswat line, the Bhakti Vinoda Dhara, he has a very important role to play. There's this temple in Shantipur. And there's the same pujari who's been in that temple for so long. He's been in that temple for so long, many, many decades. And he would always do the arati, and he would always take care of of the deity over there in Advaita Acharya's home. And he would see that sometimes this grihastha man, he would come and he would just dress very simply. He would probably have a small bag with him. He would have some other stuff with him, and he would just sit there and he would chant. He would sit there and he would chant for hours and hours and hours, like crying and weeping and weeping and crying and weeping and weeping. And he would he would see this this great Vaishnava sadhu just coming and chanting and begging and praying and praying and begging, Advaita Acharya, and he would cry and cry and cry, and then he would just go and keep some prasadam next to him, and he would didn't want to disturb this great sadhu. He didn't want to disturb him. This great although he was a grihastha, he wasn't a sannyasi or anything. And then he would see this sadhu, he would see this person coming a lot, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then after some time, this sadhu, he came once and he was really crying, and then he stopped coming for a long time. Then after many years, actually, all of a sudden this pujari started to see many devotees are struggling to keep their eyes open. I don't want to embarrass you. If you're feeling sleepy, just stand up right away. So this pujari, after many years, he actually saw, that wasn't him this time. After many years, I'm looking up. After many years, this pujari saw that all of a sudden, all these all these foreign devotees were showing up in tilak and dhoti and kantimala and chanting Hare Krishna on their beads, and so many of them were coming, and he said how is it that all of you are coming here? What happened? Because he's just absorbed in his service, performing in his service to the deities of Advaita Acharya, etc. So then one of these devotees actually gave him a Back to Godhead magazine, and the Back to Godhead magazine, he saw this picture of Srila Prabhupada, and he said, my friend actually made it. It's my friend. And then he said that the last day before Prabhupada actually went on the Jaladuta, Prabhupada, or not last day, a few days before Prabhupada actually went on the Jaladuta.
Sannyasi then, right?
No. I'll tell you. No, hold on. So usually he was coming, and then he was in this sadhu, he was just dressed as a grihastha. But then before he left, he had taken sannyas. And then he showed up, and then he was like, oh, my friend, you've taken sannyas. And he told him that his entire mission about how his spiritual master gave him this impossible order to spread.
So you missed that. Okay.
No, I was saving it for this part, that he would reveal that this sadhu who was there had taken sannyas, and he actually was surprised that the sadhu took sannyas. And then he actually went up to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada actually told him that my spiritual master has given me this impossible order. I'm actually coming here in Shantipur begging for the mercy of Advaita Acharya. I've taken sannyas now, according to my Guru Maharaj's order. And now I'm going to preach in the West. I don't know if my mission will be successful or not. Prabhupada told him that. And then when this person actually saw the Back to Godhead magazine, Prabhupada's picture, and my friend is actually successful. So before Prabhupada left to come on the Jaladuta, to come to America, he actually had went and he was begging Advaita Acharya to empower him to do this. Before and throughout his life, every time Srila Prabhupada was around the Shantipur area, he would go and he would beg Advaita Acharya for his mercy in order for him to actually get empowered to come and do this impossible feat which no Vishnu Tattva incarnation even did. So Advaita Acharya has played such an important role. Because even Advaita Acharya, Lord Chaitanya reveals that even Advaita Acharya, he actually tells Advaita Acharya, the only reason I came down is because of your loud calling, because of your loud chants of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. You're chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra so loudly that the Hare Krishna Mahamantra went all the way from the planet that we are in right now. It went all the way to the coverings of the material sky and entered, Vaikuntha. And, and Lord Chaitanya and Vishnu and basically Krishna, who was lying down, could hear the cries of Advaita Acharya, and at a certain point in time they were so intolerant that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally came down. Because Advaita Acharya he would do this very simple worship of a Shalagram Shila, where he would worship the Shalagram Shila with water and with tulsi leaves. And he would do this puja, Ganga water and tulsi leaves, and he would do this puja, and he would call down, beg for Lord Chaitanya to personally come down. So it is because of Advaita Acharya's calling that we actually have Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And because of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's coming, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent his most amazing Senapati Bhakta, Srila Prabhupada, in order to come and deliver the entire Western world. And the entire world, not just the Western world. He came to deliver the entire world, Srila Prabhupada, being the Senapati Bhakta, the commander-in-chief of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan army. So, we are very indebted to Advaita Acharya in our life. Personally, every sacrifice is made is personally affecting our life. And it's affected Srila Prabhupada's life. And the lives of so many people in Advaita Acharya, his intense devotion for Krishna, his intense devotion for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually something which is very inspiring, and we must strive to serve his mission. It is because of his calling that we have Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. It's because of his calling that this Kali Yuga is different from the other 999 Kali Yugas. So we can understand that on this day, it's a perfect day for us to actually beg for the mercy of Advaita Acharya. We didn't, if it wasn't for him, Tava Kripa Bhale Pai Chaitanya Nitai. We're just chanting that without the mercy of Advaita Acharya, we will not have the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. It's impossible to have this. So we should understand Advaita Acharya. He plays a very, very pivotal role in, of course, Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakti Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhakta Akyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. He is the Bhakta Avatar. He is the avatar, who is a devotee of Lord Chaitanya, who called down Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come. So there's no ordinary thing. There's no ordinary thing for Advaita Acharya to do this. And we can understand his humility. We can understand all these things. Although he is Mahavishnu himself, he felt incapable. He thought that Rajendra Nandan and Krishna only can come and deliver this Kali Yuga because it is so fallen. Because the people are so fallen. So, Advaita Acharya recommended the loud chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. He recommended everyone to worship Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we can see from this verse that, that Advaita Acharya, he had some sons who were completely bona fide, strict followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he had some sons who were not strict followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Both these things are there. And Advaita Acharya, he set the standard of devotional service very, very, very high. The standard of devotional service, as said by Srila Advaita Acharya Prabhu, is very high, and those who claim to be followers of the Advaita Acharya should actually learn to follow in his footsteps and take the austerities that are needed to follow in his footsteps. One of the most controversial things that Advaita Acharya did was that when it was time for Advaita Acharya is a very, very high caste Brahmana. He's a very high class, very, very high caste Brahmana. And when it was time for him to do the Shraddh ceremony for his parents, when it was time for him to do the Shraddh ceremony for his parents, usually when a person has to do Shraddh ceremony for their parents, they call like the most pure Brahmanas. They call the most pure Brahmanas, the most elevated, the most pakka, the best line of Brahmanas. Every Smarta Brahmana thinks that they're the best. Their line is the best Smarta Brahmana line. Guru Maharaj was saying this in the lecture that every Smarta Brahmana thinks actually we are actually the real Brahmanas. They're not really the real Brahmanas. We're the real Brahmanas. So like everyone would think like this. Advaita Acharya, being from like a very elevated Brahmana line, he was considering, So many people were thinking, Advaita Acharya Shraddh ceremony is happening. So he's going to call like the topmost Brahmanas and call the topmost people. But instead of inviting all these topmost Brahmanas and like all these great, highly elevated, like 50 generation, like Pakka, Smartas, following all the rules and regulations kind of people, he actually went and invited Haridas Thakur to accept this Shraddha Patra, this offering that he was making to his ancestors. And this caused a huge havoc in the society that he was part of. Because Haridas Thakur was born in a Mohammedan family. He's an Acharya, but he appeared, some say he was born in a Mohammedan family, this or that. But anyway, his line was not so known. His line was not so well known. So, he actually invited, Haridas Thakur was considered to be from a Muslim birth, and he gave him the Shraddha Patra. And then there was a huge outroar, like, how could you do this? This person is a Muslim. But we are actually like the Brahmanas, we're the Pakka bona fide people. How can you give this Shraddha Patra to people who are like not born in such a high class family as us? Then Advaita Acharya, in order to prove his point, told him that in order to be a Vaishnava is so much higher than a so-called Smarta Brahmana. A Vaishnava is so much higher that, by serving Haridas Thakur, even millions and billions of such Brahmanas will not come close to serving such a great devotee as Haridas Thakur. Why? Because he is a Namacharya. He is the spiritual master of the whole world. Apne achar kare na kiha na kare prachar, prachar kare na kiha na kare achar, achar prachar kare na tumi dui karya, tumi sarva guru, tumi jagatera arya. Haridas Thakur is glorified by Sanatana Goswami that some people know how to behave very nicely, but they don't know how to preach very nicely. But some people know how to preach very nicely, but they don't know how to behave very nicely. But you, Haridas Thakur, do both these things perfectly in relationship to the holy name. Therefore, you are the spiritual master of the entire world. And in order to prove this point, Advaita Acharya, can you go open the windows in that room? It's like, looks so tamasic, it's affecting me. Like, Advaita, to prove this point, Advaita Acharya actually gave this Shraddha Patra to Haridas Thakur. And then, he considered it bona fide that, the people, after Haridas Thakur, then the Brahmanas can, and that's the perfect way of actually doing it. And when you do such a thing in the caste-conscious Hindu society, even if you are seen like talking to a Muslim once, it's like a little questionable. Then if you're seen talking constantly to a Muslim, it's even more questionable. But then if you're seen that you're actually like sharing food with him and like serving him, then you're considered like you're going to be ostracized from society. No one would want to have anything to do with it. You're telling me that like you're in your Smarta Brahmin family that someone married like a Muslim girl or a Muslim boy or something, and till today they're not allowed to enter like the ceremonies, right? Till today they're not allowed. And this is now in Kali Yuga where they're all like, most of them are probably working jobs for some like this. What's that? Shvavriti. Most of the so-called Brahmanas of this age, they are simply like, following the Shvavriti, basically the occupation of a dog. Why? Because they're going, getting a job and being a slave to a beefeater and a drunkard. So back then it was not like that. They were not doing Shvavriti. They were like all finding like, trying to be Pakka and all these things. So at the risk of being ostracized from the society of Brahmanas, Advaita Acharya invited Haridas Thakur in order to give him the Shraddha Patra, in order to make this point that a Vaishnava is higher than a Brahmana. He actually sat down and he actually made this point very clear to the entire world, whoever it may be, wherever they may be from. He made this point so clear to the entire world, and looking at this, so many people actually started to question Advaita Acharya. They started to actually question his thing and things like this, and there was a lot of controversy. But Advaita Acharya did not care. He didn't care even a little bit. He actually went on, treating Haridas Thakur and with the great amount of respect that he deserves. For us, it's oh, so what's the big deal? So what's the big deal? But it's actually a very big deal. To go against the grain of society, to go against the grain of what's considered normal, is actually the greatest heresy according to these people. I remember Mitravan Prabhu sent me this quote from the the Harmonist of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Let me see if I find it. Yeah. The actual teachings of a prophet are followed by no more than a very small minority of his professed followers. You see? It's very important to understand. The actual teachings of a prophet are followed by no more than a very small minority of his professed followers. I'll read it third time for emphasis. the actual teachings of a prophet are followed by no more than a very small minority of his professed followers. So we can understand that, although the Advaita Acharya had had 6 sons, only 3 of them were bona fide, and out of 3 of them, 1 of them had no issues. He's brahmachari, so he had no issue. So, but the other 2, they had some issues, like they gave birth and they had bona fide sons who were, carrying on the mission of Lord Chaitanya. But these other 3 sons of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so 3 sons of Advaita Acharya, rejected the very teachings that Advaita Acharya came to give. They rejected the very teachings that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give. They rejected the very essence of the Krishna consciousness movement while professing to be followers of Advaita Acharya. 3 of them, like we were reading, Balaram, Jagadish, Swarup. Balaram, Jagadish and Swarup, that's right. 3 of them. Can I please have some water? Is this the...
Yeah.
Okay, this is the Maha water or something?
No.
Was it taste really weird? Could I have some other water, please? Yeah. I'm like, what is this? It's really bad. Anyway.
This is water from yesterday.
It's. I think it's been there for a few days, probably. Anyway. Coconut water. Okay, anyway, whatever. So you can pour it on the plants, please. Nali.
Plants?
Oh yeah, pour it on the plants or the grass, whatever. So, anyway, these 3 sons of Advaita Acharya profess to be followers of Advaita Acharya, and in the name of being followers of Advaita Acharya, actually created a great havoc in Vaishnava society. What is the verse? Rupa Goswami says, Shruti, Smriti, Purana Adi, Pancharatra Vidim Vina, Ekantaki Hare Bhaktir Utpatyaiva Kalpate. Right? Aikantaki Hare Bhaktir Utpatyaiva Kalpate. Utpatyaiva Kalpate. That those who are not following Shruti, or the injunctions of Shruti or Smriti, or the Puranas, but they simply have some sort of concocted understanding of Vaishnavism, they create a great havoc in devotee society. They create a great havoc in devotional society. Thank you. They create a great havoc in Vaishnava society. And by doing so, so many upper sampradayas come to life. So many amazingly deviant ideas come to life. So many amazingly deviant ideas come to life. And we see this in the line of Advaita Acharya, the 3 not bona fide sons. They actually say that we are actually Smarta Brahmanas, and they actually stuck to the Smarta Brahmana ideology that was professed by the Smarta Brahmanas at that time. They would only initiate people from the high caste. They would not preach to everyone. They would consider all these other devotees who are not born in high families to be untouchables. They would consider all these all these this chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra really loud, doing Harinam Sankirtan, doing all these things is a heresy, a sentimentalism, and doing all these kinds of different things. And if you look further into the pastimes of Advaita, let me just make a note. Really this instruction of my spiritual master to keep a pen and paper has revolutionized my Krishna consciousness so much. Strongly recommend if people are forgetful like me to have this pen and paper. Okay, so they considered the chanting, and doing all these things sentimental stuff, and they, would say that, no, and Advaita Acharya, although he taught all these things, we can't do what Advaita Acharya did, We just have to just follow the Smarta Brahmana codes and all these kinds of understandings. And then when they're asked, why is it that you're doing it? Although Advaita Acharya taught like this, although Advaita Acharya, his achar was like this, his behavior was like this, his prachar, his preaching was like this, his vichar, his proper understanding of Siddhanta was like this. Why are you doing something else with Advaita Acharya didn't do? Why are you doing all these other things that Advaita Acharya didn't push forward? Why are you doing all these things that Advaita Acharya was against? Why are you doing these things? Then what is the answer? What do you think the answer is? What do you think they say when they're questioned thus? It's another misunderstanding of a Vaishnava principle. Perfect, yeah. So, they say that we can't imitate Advaita Acharya Prabhu. We can't imitate him. Therefore, we just have to follow the best that we can. That's why in Sanskrit there's known as Anukarana and Anusharana. So Anukarana means to imitate, to try to follow, like to literally like mock. Karana, karta, comes from the word karta. So they try to imitate the actions of great personalities. And that is not recommended. But Anusharana means following the instructions and following the footsteps of the previous acharyas and great personalities. That is recommended. And these people would say, oh no, we can't imitate Advaita Acharya. We can't go and see that the person born in a Muslim family, they would call Haridas Thakur Jaban Vaishnava. Jaban Vaishnava means what? Like a Yavan Vaishnava. A Yavana Vaishnava. Like Shudra Vaishnava. These kinds of things. Like they would, we can't promote, we can't go and mix with these people. We can't go and share prasadam with them. What to speak of honoring them? We definitely can't honor such a person. And they would say things like this, and they would actually, they actually created a huge disturbance in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. Another thing also we see from the pastimes of Srila Advaita Prabhu, we see that, him and Nityananda Prabhu had a very unique rasa. They had a very unique relationship. This very unique relationship that they had between both of them was that they would just like when two friends meet, my spiritual master says this, that there's never been a point of time in any culture, in any place, in any time, that when two friends meet, they don't insult each other. That's like part of friendship, that when you meet a friend, part of that friendship is you have to make fun of them. You make fun of them, you mock them, and they make fun of you, and you do it. And there's a limit to doing that too. But anyway, that it's just part of the friendship. It's part of the relationship. And no one takes anything seriously. Like Krishna and Arjuna. Arjuna will say, "Oh, Krishna, you're just a yadu, but we are the kurus. We are actually the real emperors, of the whole world." And Arjuna and Krishna would joke with each other like this, And they had a very nice, strong relationship. Krishna actually valued Arjuna's relationship so much that when Arjuna helped Agni consume the entire khand of a forest, and Indra was also defeated by Arjuna, and then he asked Arjuna and Krishna what benediction that he would, they would like to have, and Arjuna asked Indra for all his weapons, and he says, okay, well, you know what Krishna asked? Matsya, do you remember what Krishna asked Indra in the Khandava forest? You just read through that section of the Mahabharata. What's the blessing that he asked?
Krishna asked for a blessing?
From Indra, yeah. You don't remember? Okay. Krishna asked for the... Don't try to guess, come on. You have that face where you don't speculate. So Krishna asked Indra that, please bless us that my friendship with Arjuna will always remain very close. You were going to say that. I swear. Okay, I'm sure you were. So that's the blessing that Krishna has. Because that's how much friends they love each other. They always want to stay with each other. Krishna is so kind, It's amazing. We can't even understand how amazing of a person Krishna is, how humble of a person Krishna is, how much of a person Krishna is. That right now, we are stuck with this, impersonal conception of our life. We're so impersonal with each. We're like, if you're really personal, then our life will actually be so much different. To understand that you're a person, that this living entity is a person, and understand all that. But Krishna is the best person. Some people in Vrindavan may argue. Actually, I don't. Sampradaya may argue that Krishna's eternal consort is the best person, and actually we agree with them. But we preach Krishna is the best person. He's such a great person. So Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu, they are also really, you say amazing people is a limitation on the English language, but they were such great personalities. Anyway, there's no proper way to glorify them. But when both of them would meet, they would like joke with each other. Like, Advaita Acharya would invite Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all their associates to come to his home, and he would like cook a huge feast for them, and he would feed them, like anything. And then Nityananda Prabhu would eat so much, and he would say, "This is all you cooked? I'm like so hungry, and this is the only thing, this is all you could cook? My God, Advaita Acharya, your cooking is so bad." And he would like start to, say all these things about Advaita Acharya. And then Advaita Acharya would say, "Oh my God, what did I do? I've invited like this person who no one knows his caste. First he was a sannyasi, and now he's married, and now he's like going around. Sometimes he's going around like Navadvip naked. Then he jumps and plays with crocodiles. Like, what kind of a person did I invite into my home? And like, I think I'm losing my caste by having such a person like you in my home." And Nityananda Prabhu would say, "You see these fists? And like in Chaitanya Bhagavat, they have like these kinds of exchanges, and Lord Chaitanya would just crack up. Like he would really like laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh. Looking at this, ecstatic exchange between Advaita Prabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. And, that would give great bliss to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Seeing both of them, have such a, because, variety is the spice of life. If everyone's always like, Haribol, Prabhuji, but when you have like a different variety too, it's nice, So, Lord Chaitanya would very much relish, this loving exchanges between Advaita Prabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. And all the Vaishnavas wouldn't think anything of it really, that's how they are. And sometimes you meet two devotees, it appears like they were fighting. Like I remember one of our godfathers when we were in the car one time, he saw me and Vishnu, Vishnu Prabhu, I did something dumb and he was chastising me for it. And then a few months on Gita Ekadashi, I called him up and I was like, I was asking for a donation. He said, "Please, you and Vishnu should always have a good relationship. Don't fight with him." And I'm like, "Prabhu, you don't, me and Vishnu, it doesn't matter if he chastises me, the love will always be there, And that's between two insignificant living entities. But then what to speak of Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu? Their love and their relationship with each other is so amazing. And the devotees never thought anything of it. They actually relished it. They think of these pastimes. And in that purport, I think Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, if I'm not wrong, he quotes, one of Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur quotes that when things like this happen, great Vaishnavas do not take sides. They because by taking the side of one person, they come in an offense to another person. Actually, I should make a note of this also. So, they don't take sides, etc. But the followers of Advaita Acharya would actually take what Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu were joking about very seriously. They would consider Nityananda Prabhu was actually a very low class person. No one knows what his what his caste is, and he's actually a fallen sannyasi because he was a sannyasi first, and then Lord Chaitanya asked him to marry, so he married, and what is this? Nityananda Prabhu is completely not bona fide. He's completely bogus. Him, and he was so offensive to Advaita Acharya. He should not be considered some great incarnation. He's actually a very scoundrel person. He would do all these things. He was an avadut. He was no one can take him seriously. And they would say all these kind of offensive things about Lord Nityananda. And of course, that's why they fell down. That's why their branch is Acharya. It's disconnected from the tree of Lord Chaitanya. But they would say things like this. Another thing, this is something completely ridiculous. This is like incredulous. I learned a new English word. That was right. Okay. When I did like this, one time Guru Maharaj said, no more doing this. I remember he asked me, "Did you do something?" He said, "Yes, Guru Maharaj." And I did it like a few, and he had like a look on his face. I was just dumb and stupid. I'm still dumb and stupid, but he said this, no more. And I go, never again. So, so incredulous, thing that they also would promote is that, Advaita Acharya, he was thinking, he was feeling very bad, for himself that, everyone in this world is getting the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Everyone. And they're offering obeisance to Lord Chaitanya and all these things. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu considers me some great worshipable person. And he comes and offers me his obeisances and does all these things. And, I can't handle this. I can't tolerate this. And like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would come and like forcibly take the dust off of Advaita Acharya Prabhu's lotus feet. And Advaita Acharya Prabhu couldn't tolerate it, so he actually sat down and he plotted and he thought what can I do to really fry out Lord Chaitanya? If someone is a very staunch Vaishnava, what could you do to frustrate them and fry them out? You're so great. Any guess? What could you do? Now you're about to say what I'm going to say, right? No? Okay. Huh? That's right. Start talking about Mayavad. You're about to say that? No? Okay. I thought you were. I felt it in your heart. So, they would actually start, he actually thought if I really want to fry out Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I could just go speak impersonally. And because Vaishnavas, those who are in the Brahma Madhya Gaudiya Saraswat Sampradaya, we are born enemies of the Mayavadis. We are born enemies of the Sahajis. We will crush them. We will literally crush them. We will defeat them. We will put them out of existence, oblivion, completely. That's the mood. The son of a lion is a lion. So, he knew that in order to fry out Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he could just go and speak Mayavad. So then he was in Shantipur, and Mahaprabhu was wondering, where is Advaita Acharya? Prabhu, where is he? Then he is in Shantipur and he's giving some discourses to some students and all these things. So Advaita Acharya, what is the dearmost scripture for the Vaishnavas? Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Chaitamrita. Anyway, Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Is the dearmost scriptures for all Vaishnavas, no matter which sampradaya they belong to. So what is the dearmost scriptures of the Mayavadis? Anyone know? Huh? Close. One more. Yoga Vasishta. Yoga Vasishta is actually the most insidious attack on Vaishnavism because it's a whole concocted book that the Mayavadis claim that Valmiki wrote. No, that Valmiki wrote. And in this book, they claim that after Rama left, Vasishta spoke all this impersonal philosophy to Lord Rama.
Yeah.
So,
It was spoken when he was young.
It was spoken
Before marriage.
that Vasishta spoke. And it's a whole concocted book. And in this concocted book, it's so impersonal and it's so horrible. And all this, beautiful, there's all this amazing description of Lord Rama and devotion and all these things, but they completely contaminated with Mayavad. So, Lord Chaitanya, even saying that name kind of fries me out. But Lord Chaitanya would actually, he went and he heard Advaita Acharya is doing this and he got really fried out and he said, now you tell me, what is the proper conclusion of the Vedic scriptures? Is it devotional service to God or merging with Him? And Advaita Acharya says, to merge with God. That's the topmost thing. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gets so fried out. Advaita Acharya Prabhu was older. He drags him off the Vyasasan and starts to beat him, pummel him, literally bash him up. Bash Advaita Acharya, bash him up. And his wife is screaming, oh no, he's an old man. Don't do this. But Lord Chaitanya wasn't relenting. And he said, you are the person who called me. I was sleeping happily in Vaikuntha and you called me down And you asked me to preach this message of pure Krishna consciousness, and here you are preaching Mayavad. What is this nonsense? And boom, and then Advaita Acharya says, oh, now what happened to all your respectful obeisances? Now what happened to you taking the dust from my feet? Now what happened to all this respect? Krishna is so kind, he finally fulfilled my desires. You know? And it's very obvious that Advaita Acharya, they actually like take this whole thing into the impersonal line also. Oh, no, Yoga Vasishta. Yes. You know, we should learn from this, we should teach from this. And by saying things like this, they deviated so much from the real teachings of Lord Chaitanya that they're like Mayavadi smartas. Some of them. They're like. So these kinds of things actually went on. That's why Achyutananda is so much glorified. That is why, Krishna Mishra is so much glorified. That is why Govinda is so much glorified, the son of Advaita. Because they kept the proper bona fide disciplic succession alive. It's not that all the caste Goswamis are completely bogus. The people of the devotees of the Radharaman temple, they are extremely favorable to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. When Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur went to oppose the caste Brahmanas, this great Acharya in the line of Gopal Bhatta Goswami went and fought with Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He went and he did it. And I said, there are bona fide followers. It's not that all caste Goswamis are bogus. That doesn't make any sense.
Fought with, meaning not fought against.
Fought along with.
Fought along with.
He fought along with Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur against the Smarta Brahmanas. It's not that all caste Goswamis are bogus, no. But we have to understand the parampara. We have to actually understand and see where they stand. So it's nice, right? It's a good analysis. It's a good story. What happened 500 years ago. Clearly none of that is happening right now, right? None of that. It's simply foolishness to think that it doesn't happen. It's actually dumb stupidity to actually think that these deviations only happened back then, and everyone who has a danda and everyone who has like saffron cloth and a tilak and like maybe nowadays even rocks a cool beard or like whatever it is, or like doesn't have a cool beard and like they're all like being humble and maybe disciples of a bona fide spiritual master. It's foolishness to think that all of them are pure devotees. It's dumb. It's stupid. It's incredulously stupid. So, this disease is there even today. Even today, this disease is there. And it's haunting the Krishna consciousness movement. How many people, we were there, we personally heard from the mouth of a person who was with Srila Prabhupada, who was distributing books in the Radha Damodar party. He personally told us that all the people who are mixing with the Mayavadis and chanting Shiva Shambhu, Jai Jai Shambhu and like Jai Kali Ma and Hare Krishna and doing Kirtan Melas and doing bogus yoga programs which Prabhupada was against in places that you don't have to do. Bogus programs, allowing free mixing, doing all these things. They're all pure devotees, he told us. And then he said that what you do in your book distribution is good, but God forbid, I have to say this unfortunately, he said that we have all moved past it. We have all gone past Srila Prabhupada's bona fide program. Now we are doing our own kind of nonsense and claiming to be followers of Prabhupada. Those people who are pushing forward Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement and distributing books are deemed as Kali Chelas. Those people who are strictly following in the line of Srila Prabhupada and saying the exact same thing that Srila Prabhupada spoke are Kali Chelas, are deviants, should not be associated with. But those people who are completely bogus and promoting all kinds of bogus things, distributing karmic grain cookies with eggs in a Rath Yatra, completely bona fide. So these things are going on even today. Right here, right now. A few blocks from us. How is it that a bogus sadhu, a bogus sannyasi, who's very offensive to Srila Prabhupada, who is giving conclusions which are against that of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, who is preaching the same message as that of the enemies of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, is considered to be a great Rasik Vaishnava Acharya, who like Prabhupada came to take everyone to Vaikuntha, but he's taking everyone to Goloka Vrindavan. How did this crop up? How did this happen? Why? Because people didn't have the guts to follow Prabhupada's mission. People didn't have what it takes to actually push through the grain against what the society is going towards. How is it that feminism, all this other stuff like Sahajavad and all these other things have creeped into Prabhupada's movement? How is it possible? Why? Because people don't have the guts to preach strongly in Prabhupada's service. They don't have the guts to do so. And because they don't have the guts to do so, because they don't have the determination to do so, because they are fearful of what would people think, they have become miserable and asara. Useless branches of the tree of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Why? Because they have disconnected themselves from the tree of Srila Prabhupada. From the branch of Srila Prabhupada, they've disconnected themselves. So, these things are not nice stories that we like to hear and speak about and think it's really cute or something like that. Oh, it's a good story, Prabhuji. Jai, thank you so much. But no, these things are going on. And as bona fide followers of Srila Prabhupada, it is our duty to guard ourselves against this kind of nonsense. It is our duty to do so. If we don't do so, we should not be foolish and everything. Oh, it's all nice, it's all good, everything is fine. No. We must never forget the nectar of discrimination. It's a very important thing. The nectar of discrimination is very important. If we don't discriminate, if we don't distinguish reality from illusion, how will there be benefit for all? How will we approach the threefold miseries? How will we hear the Srimad Bhagavatam properly? How is this possible? It's impossible. Advaita Acharya taught us to do this. Srila Prabhupada taught us to do this. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur taught us to do this. All our Acharyas, what do they write in their books? Why is Krishnadas Kaviraj writing such heavy things in the Chaitanya Charitamrita? Supposed to be Amrita, right? Supposed to be nectar, right? Why is he talking all these things? Why? Because this is Amrita. Discrimination is Amrita. Why are free mixing Acharyas going around and doing all this kind of nonsense? Why? Just like this book that, that Prabhupada is mentioning over here. Where is this? In an unauthorized book of the name Sita Advaita Charita, published in Bengali, in the unauthorized newspaper Nityananda Dayini in 1972 Shakabda, it is mentioned that some false information. Even the Sahajis have this bogus book, I'm not going to name it, but they claim that this bogus guru and Srila Prabhupada had some very amazing, ecstatic, loving exchanges on letters. They have a whole concocted book that they made up with these letters from the West or some nonsense like this. And they promote this and they say yes, Prabhupada and this bogus guru, they're all in the same line. This is our Guru Varga. No, this is an asara. This is bogus. This is poison. And we are staunch, we are born enemies of these things. We will stomp them out. We'll stomp them out of the place where they're preaching now. We'll stomp them out of the place they're preaching anywhere. Because this is bogus. This is the real thing. By following Srila Prabhupada's mission, if you really want to follow Prabhupada, be ready for a fight. Till your last breath. Be ready for a fight. It doesn't get over. It doesn't get over. The fight goes on in the material world. The fight goes on. We have to push through. We have to push through. We have to distribute these books. That's the only hope. If the books are not the basis, then you'll end up with this stuff right here. You'll end up with this. You'll end up like this. Like the bogus guy smoking marijuana in a vape is a great manjari who has an angry rasa.
Too much.
Bogus guy with 3-4 girlfriends is actually like a sucker in the spiritual world. Along with different sakis. And in the spiritual world, they're married. If Prabhupada was here, his opinions would change. No more, don't distribute books. It gives us a bad image. Yeah, we will run with that bad image. We were going to run with it and we're going to make this bad image popular. You're with us, you're against us, but we will crush you if you're against us. And that's the mood. No one can withhold the strength of Srila Prabhupada's books. No one can. Even one letter of Srila Prabhupada's books will squash out all this kind of nonsense. So as followers of Srila Prabhupada on this day of Advaita Saptami, let's take a vow that no matter what happens, we will stick to the straight line drawn by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur and our own Srila Prabhupada. Even if it means to be in a socially uncomfortable position. There'll be people who try to come and buy us out. They say, we'll give you such a big donation. Just let this bogus guru speak. Hell no. And there'll be people who are like, oh, why don't you do a yoga program? You have such a nice temple room. Hell no. Oh, my dead body. There'll be so many people who offer so many things, but if we make this vow that we will fight till our last breath for the right thing and the real thing, then we will be saved by Srila Prabhupada. We will actually receive his mercy. We will receive the mercy of Advaita Acharya. And on this day, we should pray for the strength. Sakala samana korite shakati deho nata jata jata. Tabeto gaivo harinama sukhe aparada have. We should pray for the strength for the great Acharyas of Advaita Acharya on this day. So I'll end the class here and we have some time for comments or questions. We can take them now. Anyone has any questions or comments? Is it a question or a comment?
Question.
What is it?
So when Advaita Acharya,
You want to unplug it and turn it around?
when Advaita Acharya gave that lecture about him preaching Mayavad philosophy, just to get those feelings out of Chaitanya. Chaitanya. So was it only just that was that only that one lecture that made all his followers deviate from the path of original?
No, that was going on for some time. And happens like that. Anything else? Yes.
I still don't understand exactly the difference between Advaitavad and Mayavad.
Same thing.
Same thing?
Yeah. Advaita means no dualism. Monism. And Mayavad is also the same thing. It's a more technical term. Advaitavad is a more technical term for Mayavadis.
If it means Mayavad, why is he giving the name Advaita? If it means Mayavadi, why is he giving the name Advaita?
Advaita also means without duplicity also. Non-duplicitous person. So that's why.
Well, Advaita.
Advaita, yeah, sorry.
Explain in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Advaita, the name is given because he's actually non-different from Mahavishnu. He's non-different from Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's actually the self-same Mahavishnu who has appeared as Advaita Acharya to the system. That's what Advaita is using. As to signify that he is actually Vishnu Tattva, he is not Jiva, he is Advaita, he is non-different from Krishna himself.
Incarnation.
Yeah.
And the Mayavadis, they monopolize on certain words, like Vedanta means like Sharirika Bhasha, but it doesn't. Advaita Acharya, means without duplicity. He's, and also he's, non-different from Krishna himself. So we understand it like that.
You know anything about this name? I think it's Acharya Shekara, the name of Advaita Acharya.
Acharya Shekara, Acharya Ratna. Acharya Shekara basically the jewel amongst the Acharyas, the pleasure of the Acharyas, Anything else?
So in the verse Panchatattvatmakam Krishna, you can say, which it refers to Advaita Acharya.
Yeah, Bhakta Avataram Bhaktakyam.
No, not Bhakta. It's
Bhakta Avataram.
Bhakta Avatar.
Bhakta Avatar.
He's
He's a Bhakta Avatar.
Yeah.
That's why usually when someone's named Bhakta Avatar, it's actually like a name of Advaita Acharya. So, anything else?
So Nityananda Prabhu is Bhakta Rupa,
Yeah.
Advaita Acharya is Bhakta Avatara, and then Gadadhar Pandit is Bhakta.
No. Shiva Thakur is Bhakta. Bhakta Shakti come.
Bhakta, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, Bhakta Shakti. Yes, Nari.
I had a question. So, his son, Chitananda, was Gadadhar Pandit's
Disciple.
and then in the case of
Bhakti, that's a good observation.
So what?
In the case of Bhakti Siddhanta, although the son of Bhakti Thakur, he was initiated by Gaura Kishore Das.
Is there like a reason they go about doing it like that?
There's many reasons. One of the reasons why Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur had taken was a disciple of Gaura Kishore Das Babaji, because he was very much attracted to him. He's Bhakti Thakur instructed him to go and get initiated by Gaura Kishore Das Babaji. In the first time that Gaura Kishore Das Babaji appeared in Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's home, he already in his heart accepted that this is my spiritual master. And he gave him some of his Mahaprasadam, and like some stamps, and some of his personal cloth and all that, which Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur very much held dear to him. and also like to help the world know how great of a personality Gaur Kishodas Babaji Maharaj is. Okay?
It also shows that it's just normal. It's nothing abnormal. I mean, it's not that because your father is a great person, you have to take initiation from him. Can you?
You can, yeah.
You can, yes.
Of course you
You
can.
can.
And not bar.
You can. Caste Goswamis, that's generally how it works.
Yes.
Just one other question, I'm just kind of thinking, like, Lord Chaitanya sent Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur going like door to door preaching. Like, did Advaita Acharya have any like, specific like service or instruction? Or, like,
I mean, he was the guide of all the devotees in Shantipur.
Mm.
You know, he was, he actually, he was very pivotal in Lord Chaitanya's childhood life also. He would, Vishwarupa, Lord Chaitanya's older brother, would actually go and attend like the Bhagavatam classes held by Advaita Acharya Prabhu in his home in Navadvip. And, he was preaching a lot actually, like, Advaita Acharya could not understand the meaning of a particular Bhagavad Gita verse. And he decided to fast until he realizes that. And Lord Chaitanya appeared to him in a dream and told him, don't worry, I will explain this verse to you when the time comes, And he was, preaching the Srimad Bhagavatam and all these things. And when Sachimata would send Nimai to go get his older brother to come call his brother for prasadam, for lunch prasadam or whatever, then at that point of time, Lord Chaitanya would walk in to Advaita Acharya Prabhu's house. All the devotees would just be completely attracted to him and they'd be thinking like, what's wrong with this? This is a small boy. Like, why are we feeling the same attraction that we're feeling for the Bhagavatam for this boy? Like, how is it possible able to distract us, But he would feel like, so much. And he was very pivotal in Lord Chaitanya's role. And Advaita Acharya, he would also preach, he would also do all these things. He was the shelter of the devotees in Mayapur. And maybe like next year when devotees are giving a class, they could speak about that aspect of it. But I thought I'll speak about this. I touched on some of the points my spiritual master made in this lecture called Warnings from Adi-Lila. I strongly recommend listening to that lecture. Warnings, yeah. But okay?
The main service of Advaita Acharya, he brought Lord Chaitanya
Mm-hmm.
to this world, and he also determined when Lord Chaitanya would round up his pastimes and go back. So basically, Lord Chaitanya was
Adi
called by
and
Advaita Acharya and sent back by
Right.
him. This is main service. This is the main service of Advaita Acharya came from. Because he is incarnation of Mahavishnu, and therefore, in one sense, he is responsible, in charge of the material world. So he invites Lord Chaitanya to come and display his pastimes and says, okay, time to round it back up.
No more rice in the market.
Yeah. There's no more demand for the rice in the market.
Okay, all right. Shri Advaita Acharya Prabhu ki jai. Shri Advaita Saptami Mahotsaha ki jai.